Hi guys. This week we're going to have a bit of a motivation or demotivation session in a way. We're going to look at the screenwriting career that we have because we have the screenwriting career we deserve. Let's start by getting some of the exceptions out of the way, the things that aren't going to be true. Because when you talk about these sorts of truths to people, quite often they'll find that one thing that is completely out of the norm, and they say, well, because of that, everything you're saying can't be true. There was a book called The Confederacy of Dunces. I remember my brother telling me about it back when I was a teen, and he said it was the best book he'd read at the time, and he reads a lot of books. And the author had killed himself, and then the thing was published posthumously, and it won a Pulitzer Prize. That is the exception, that you can't find a publisher for a novel, but it's actually going to win a Pulitzer Prize one day. Most unpublished novels are unpublished because they're not worth publishing. So you self-publish them and you find your audience that way. But they're not good enough for a mass market publisher. A man in 1948 had a mental illness. I think it was obsessive compulsive. And finally, he couldn't take any more and he shot himself. That injury that he suffered from that shooting resolved his mental illness. It probably introduced a whole lot of other things, but that resolved his mental illness. Today, we do not carry out neurological surgeries and brain surgeries with shotguns or rifles or pistols, because it happened once doesn't mean that it is the truth and it's the way that everything happens. So hopefully we can deal with that. So when someone goes to you, oh yeah, but so-and-so had never written a screenplay before and he wrote that screenplay and it went on to become a best-selling, and raised the exception, not the rule. Okay? So we're not going to be talking about the exceptions. Let's talk about the community, the rules. Most studios, producers, those sorts of people that acquire screenplays from people like us, they need filters because let's say there's 100 good ones and that's 1%. So that means for every one good screenplay of that 100, there's 10,000 that aren't quite as good. They're just the next level down. And then for all those ones that are the next level down, they're probably 1%. Then suddenly we have 1 million or whatever. Once you get down to the guys that have never written a screenplay before, and they're maybe tier 10, have a look at the numbers here, that's more than the population of the planet in screenplays. So they need filters. In the old days, they didn't need filters. In the old days, before the internet, so even back in the early 90s, when people could write a screenplay, and they wrote on typewriters because word processing was still very clunky. There wasn't, I don't even know if the screenwriting softwares had been out. There's a thing called a barrier to entry. The barrier to entry to become a screenwriter was so high, there wasn't many. But as soon as you can download free screenwriting software, it's a template in Word, or you get the student edition of something, or, Write a Solo by the guys that are writerduet. I'll put their logo up here. They have, I think, a free version. writerduet has a free version where you can have only 3 scripts in there at any time. So the barrier to entry is super low. Everyone's got a PC now. I write on a phone and my iPad. Which means since the barrier to entry is so low, the risk is so low, a lot more people are into it now. A lot more people are writing screenplays. There's 1.5 million people on the screenwriting Reddit. That's because the barrier to entry is low, which means if they're all going to produce one, suddenly we have this explosion of low quality work, which is going to flood towards these producers, towards these studios. So now they need filters. In the old days, they might have used movie contests, where before the internet, when there wasn't many movie contests, because you had to go to the town where the movie contest was, or the film festival was, and you entered, and all that sort of stuff. So there wasn't as many. So they could say, okay, if you've won one, I might read your screenplay. Now, I think there's at any one time, 900 competitions. So you can win 100 of them and no one cares. But if you won something like the Nickel or the Austin Film Festival, people might say, oh, I'll read that. But then people start jumping to that second tier where there's 10,000. Or what about the Blue Cat? What about the Page? What about the one? And there's some famous ones that the industry just don't care about. They're famous to us amateur writers, but no one cares. Okay. And again, they'll be able to point to, well, the guy who once won that competition went on to write a movie that starred Arnold Schwarzenegger. But that's because he was good, not because of the competition. That's what I'm saying. The other thing, so they can only use one or two competitions as filters. They have gatekeepers. The gatekeepers aren't there because Hollywood's very bad or it's a closed system. It's there because there's millions, if not billions, of screenplays trying to flood in. So the guy's willing to pay someone, whoever be a studio head or producer, to say, look, if you manage, which is highly unlikely, to find a diamond amongst all that road base out there, bring it to me. Otherwise, I'm paying you to read and give them an answer and be polite. So, but if you manage to find that diamond, bring it. I'll be happy. Gatekeepers. Think of how you yourself make a decision. Right? You have people you trust. So you're going to buy a car. I'll use the car as another example in a second. So you're going to buy a car. You ask your friends, what do they drive? What do they think? You might see some ads. You might read some car magazines. You might go online, read reviews. You go to trusted sources, which are normally friends, families. We've had a lot of Mazdas in our family. So my wife, when we wanted to buy a new car, she went straight to the Mazda. What's the new Mazda offering? And she read through those because that's a trusted brand to us. This is why when people say, oh, they only ever go to the same writers all the time, it's because they're the trusted brand. They're Mazda for them. Someone said the other day, oh, it's a closed system because I saw 4 films and they were all of children of famous writers. Well, my son is in a similar industry to me. A lot of people are like that. There is, singers whose kids are singers. There's actors whose kids are actors. There's writers whose kids are writers. There's bricklayers. That's why there's so many companies like So-and-so and Sons or So-and-so Family Store or, that's because kids tend to be swept up in the industry. My brother-in-law and my sister-in-law are teachers. Guess what their daughter is? A teacher. That doesn't mean that teaching's a closed shop and they only ever let, the kids of teachers in. No, that just becomes what happens. So it's not a closed shop. You have to be good. You have to be great. You have to be able to get in. So understand the steps. You're not going to jump in up here. And this is where the title comes from, the career that you deserve. I say to people all the time, I write small budget, contained, low budget dramas. Right? Because in that area, I can compete. I have the career I deserve. If I get a bit better, as I hope to do, if my films make a bit more money for people in the next tier up that might go, I saw that and didn't mind that, I'll contact him. And I might move up a tier. Sorry. I might move up a tier. Therefore, I get the career I deserve. Your skill and your talent and your persistence and your story and your understanding of story and your understanding of the market segment you're writing for and the people that know you, the people you have impressed, all that will give you the career that you deserve. You can't jump straight on the top because you think you deserve that career. Back to the car brands. Okay, imagine how bad it would be if a car company only ever made one car. So suddenly there's 1 million cars in the market. You have to go out and assess every single one of them. And then suddenly the one you've bought's really good. And then that car company makes a second car. You're going to go back to it and back to it. And that's how brands are built. That is why you've got to have a brand as well. You've got to be consistent. You can't be like everybody else. You just can't sit there and whinge. You've got to be professional. Get out there. Start networking. Start getting the career that you deserve. But mostly, rather than sitting around bitching and whinging and complaining that it's a closed network and all the time you spend blaming someone else, Blame yourself. Okay. Look at something and go, well, why don't they like it? Well, the answer to that is because it's not good. The same reason you don't like a certain meal at a restaurant, because it's not to your taste. It's not good. It's not good for you. Might be good for somebody else, but it's not good for you. So become better. Spend your time on yourself, on your skill. As your skills increase, as your talent increases, as you recognize what a good story is, what a bad story is, you'll get the career that you deserve. One of the things that's prompting me for this is that I managed to obtain the rights of a story that I sold a few years ago now. The production fell apart, and as part of the payment, rather than take that, I took the rights to the film back. I've read the script because I've got a chance to move it on to another production company, and it's terrible. The opening scene reads horribly. The rest of the film's pretty good, but that opening scene stumbles along, feels plasticky. It feels like you're watching these guys act. It's terrible. So I'm rewriting it. I've said to the people that I'm sending it to, give me a few days and I'll give it to you, because I know what I want to do and I know how I'm going to do it. But that film, lucky it fell apart in a way, because that would have been a film for me then, not the film for me now. And I think my career deserves better. But I've only got the career I deserve. So remember that. You got the career you deserve because of who you are and what you write. So don't spend your time doing anything else other than working on yourself. That's it, guys. Bit preachy. Sorry. I know this is the one that's going to lose me some subscribers. If you're so kind to do this, maybe share this on if you know somebody who could actually do with hearing this message, that you are in control of what you do. Don't worry about the things you can't control. Work on the ones you can. Until next time, guys, keep writing. Bye.